Yo guys, welcome back to another video. So before I start today's video, I just want to let you know that I am starting on my Instagram again. People were asking about it. I didn't say anything because I stopped posting on it, but I did get a new phone this week and I want to start posting on it again. So I will leave a link to the Instagram on screen right now and in the description below. And if you follow today, you'll be entered to win a Supreme t-shirt, which I'm giving away from my shop. So go ahead and yeah, drop me a follow and let's get to today's video. So what I usually do with these unusual money making method videos is just focus on one method that's unusual and just make a whole video on it. But I was thinking it over and I was just like, maybe it'll be better if I do 4 or 5 of these methods in a single video. One, because while, you know, the method may be unusual, making 200K an hour might not be that entertaining for some people and they just want variety in the video. And that's exactly what I'm going to do with this one. So if you guys like this a lot better than just focusing on one, I will keep doing this for the unusual money making method series, because today I have 4 pretty cool methods for you guys. Before we jump into the methods, don't forget guys that these are unusual methods. They're not the best ways to make money. They're just unusual ways that I thought were entertaining and I was going to put in this video. So if you guys have any unusual money making method that you want me to put in next week's video, if I make another one, then let me know in the comments below. Send me a YouTube message, send me a Twitter DM, send me an Instagram DM. You know, that's open now, and I'll think about putting it in next week's video. So let's get to the methods. So the first method comes to us from Etnies787, and he or she says, suggestion for a way to make money: go into the Armadyl section of the God Wars dungeon and collect the mithril grapples out of the crate. I had no idea that this crate existed. Apparently there is a crate in the Armadyl's Eyrie where you can get unlimited mithril grapples. As you guys know, mithril grapples are used for shortcuts around the game, just to make the game a bit easier for you. I think there's a big one between Taverley and Catherby that I think requires you to have a mithril grapple. I might be wrong, but I think I'm right. Anyways, there's a crate in Armadyl's Eyrie that actually drops or gives you an unlimited supply of these mithril grapples. To get into the Eyrie, however, you need 70 range and a crossbow as well as another mithril grapple. So you need those stat requirements as well as those items. It's also recommended to have an Armadyl item and a Zamorak item, since you will be passing those monsters in God Wars dungeon and you don't want them to be aggressive to you, because that would make this a little bit annoying. What you basically want to do is find the fastest way to God Wars dungeon, have a mithril grapple and a crossbow on you. I wore an Unholy Book and an Armadyl pendant as my Armadyl and Zamorak items, and then I ran straight to God Wars dungeon, grappled my way across to Armadyl's Eyrie, and then there was the crate simply right there. Now to get all these mithril grapples, you have to do the drop trick, and the drop trick is something I'm sure all of you guys have used in your RuneScape careers before. Simply click on the box, get yourself a grapple, and then drop it on the ground. With the new shift click feature, it should be very easy to drop it on the ground, so I don't want to hear you guys complaining at all, but simply get 27, or at least in my case I got 27 grapples, and then teleported to Varrock, which is pretty much my Grand Exchange teleport. Ran straight up to the Grand Exchange. Now these grapples go for about 1,000 each on the Grand Exchange. Just not many people actually make them themselves. They just buy from the Grand Exchange, and they all sold pretty much instantly on the Grand Exchange, and I sold them for 28,107 GP. So they sold for 893 each. The entire process of going to Trollheim, running up to God Wars dungeon, getting the grapples, and then going back to the Grand Exchange took me about 5 minutes. If I would have repeated this process for the entire hour, it means I would have made about 330K off doing this method per hour. Obviously this isn't the best money in the game, but it may be a useful rebuilding method, since all you need is a Zami item, an Armadyl item, a crossbow, and a grapple. Go to God Wars dungeon, and assuming you have 70 range, you can maybe do a couple of trips of this and make 100K pretty quickly. This next method has been suggested like 10 times from people, and I'm just going to put in today's video so I just get it out of the way and people don't request that anymore, because I get this one all the time, and that is buying the dyes in Letya, or Yetya, whatever you want to call it. So the dyes here are insanely cheap. They're only 6 GP each. They're the cheapest anywhere in RuneScape. So come to Letya and get yourself a lovely deal on these dyes. Not kidding, I wasn't paid for that. The only requirement for this is that you must have started Morning's Empire 1, which is a pretty easy quest to get started. But once you have done it, then you can pretty much have access to everything in here. And one of those things you have access to is Oranwan's shop, which sells the dyes. Now these dyes are insanely cheap in here, only 6 GP each. So buy all 10 of them, or buy however many you want. Hop worlds, buy them all out in that world as well. But pretty much what I did is I just bought 10 of these in a single world. They sell for 6 GP each, like I said. And there's a bank in Letya as well, which is very close. So simply buy them, run straight to the bank them all, and run back to this area. Buying out all the dyes in the shop cost me 360 GP, so it's very cheap. All you have to do is run to the Grand Exchange now and put them in for whatever price you want to put them into. Now for these, I guarantee you that if you just put them in 5% below, they will sell over time. But for the sake of this video, I wanted to sell them instantly to see what kind of profit I would make. And at the end of the day, I managed to make about 31,000 GP off all of this. So I made about 21K off doing this method, and it took maybe 5 minutes. This one's pretty comparable to the last one, because all you need is 360 GP technically to buy out the shop, maybe a little bit more for the boat ride there if you have nothing. But if you have absolutely nothing, and you're looking for a bit of money at the very start, just go to the shop, buy out the dies if you have access to it, sell it on the Grain Exchange, and you'll have a nice little cash stack to start out. But thank you again to everyone that suggested this method, but is now done. It is out of the way. You can't suggest it anymore. This next method comes from That Classy White D on YouTube, and he left a very kind YouTube message, so thank you again, Classy White D. I really appreciate that, man. His method is turning super composts, or actually turning regular compost into super composts. Now this method is really cool because you can just stand at the Grain Exchange and make money, and that's one of my favorite things to do, is just stand and make money, and I'm sure it is for you guys too. So pretty much what you do here is just turn these regular composts into the super compost with compost potions, which I think you can get from Nightmare Zone. Now the only thing stopping you from making maximum profit off of this is the buy limits on the Grain Exchange, but you can get away with this by buying the compost from another account and then trading them over, or doing whatever you want. The 4-dose compost potions go for about 1000 GP on the Grain Exchange, and regular compost go for about 25 GP on the Grain Exchange, and super compost go for over 600 GP, so you're making quite the profit off each one. So to test it out, I bought 120 compost for 3K, and then I bought 30 compost potions for 1.1K, so that added up to 35K. So really not that expensive to buy all these things. All you need to start out, at least in my case, was about 38K, so not too bad. Now for the next part, it's really convenient because there's no delay when you add these compost potions. That's hard to say. There's no delay when you add the compost potions to the compost themselves. So pretty much what you can do is bring one of the compost potions. What I did is just bring it to the very bottom right corner, bring a compost right next to it, and then just spam click on the two, and it instantly adds the compost potion to the other things in your inventory. It's a little bit weird though, because once you finish that potion, it moves it like to the middle of your inventory, so you have to drag it back down once it's finished, and then just keep continue the process. It's really fast. I do each inventory in like 30 seconds. It's really not that bad. And then once you finish every single thing in your inventory, bank them, and then continue the process. So if we go to the Grain Exchange history, you can see that I actually made a decent profit off of this, and it took maybe 4 to 5 minutes doing all of this. It really wasn't that bad, and you're just standing at the Grain Exchange, so it's really sort of not AFK, but you can multitask when doing this. So if we go to the history, like I said, we can see that the ingredients all cost me about 38K, and after selling all the super compost, we made about 66,230 GP, so another 30K profit. Now this one might be a bit more appealing than the other ones because you don't have to run anywhere. You just stand on the Grain Exchange and turn compost into super compost, which for some of you might enjoy more since you're not running into the God Wars dungeon, or you're not running and going out in bank and stuff like that. So for this one, really cool one. I had no idea it existed. Thank you again to Classy D for suggesting this one. Definitely an unusual one, but something that may be appealing to some of you. This final method is brought to us by Rune Panther on YouTube, and he brings us a method that is insanely unique. It utilizes an item in your house that I had no idea existed, and that's the Crystal of Power. If you guys know what the Crystal of Power is, props to you, because I had no idea. Now it goes in the study of your house, and what this thing does is pretty much if you have an elemental staff, you can change it for free to any other staff of any kind. Well, not a battle staff, but any other elemental staff that you want for free. It just changes it. So if you have a fire staff, you can change it into an air staff. If you have a water staff, you can change it into an earth staff or whatever. Now this is like sort of a useless thing in your house. Like, who the hell would come here just to change an item? Maybe for Iron Man, I don't know, but it's just so much easier to go to the Grain Exchange or just buy it in the shop somewhere else. They're really cheap, but there's actually a cool little thing you can do with this, and he tells us that you just buy the cheapest staff and then just change them on this Crystal of Power and then sell them on the Grain Exchange for the staff that you changed it into for a lot higher of a price. So in his case, he used earth staffs and then changed them to air staffs because the air staffs are the most expensive. But in my case, the staff of fires were very cheap. They're like 1,060 each or something, but the air staffs were still the most expensive. So in my case, I bought 50 fire staffs on the Grain Exchange, went to my house and built this Crystal of Power. It is sort of expensive to build. It costs like 230K or so because you do need gold leaves for it, and then you also have to have a study in your house. So that's, I guess, the only downside of this. But if you happen to have it, then you can use this money making method. He says he made about 600 to 700K an hour doing this. The only thing with it that also is sort of a downside, I guess, this method is really cool. It's very unusual, which is the point of the series, but it is sort of click intensive, and it's, you have to have this item in your house. So what you do is pretty much you go in there with a full inventory of staffs. Now you can do this 2 different ways. You can have them noted and then tell your butler to unnote them for you, and he'll bring them back for you. But in my case, what I did is I had this Crystal of Power right next to my jewelry box. So that means I can just, finish off this inventory, teleport to Castle Wars, bank them, and then teleport back to my house and then continue the process. So pretty much you have to use each individual staff on the Crystal of Power and then select what elemental staff you want to turn it into. So in my case, I went from fire staffs to air staffs. So it's a little bit click intensive. You have to go back and forth, back and forth. I wish there was a change all option. I don't think there is, at least not that I know of. But yeah, pretty cool method. So I'm making about 600, 700 GP per staff, which is pretty good. The process of turning these 50 staff of fires into staff of airs took about 3.5 minutes, so pretty quick. Again, just a little bit click intensive, which might be unappealing to some of you, but for the sake of the video, I tried it out. If we go to the Grand Exchange and sell them, we can see that I bought these staff of fires for 52,500 GP, and then I sold all of the staff of airs for 84,000 GP. So about 32k profit off this, another 32k profit made pretty quickly. Again, not something I would do for money, but an unusual method nonetheless, which is why I included in the video. So thank you again for the very cool method. I learned about an item that I didn't even know existed again. I'm just so bad at this game. So thank you again to Rune Panther. Really cool method. And that's it for today's video, guys. We finished all 4. I enjoyed making this a lot more since I'm including so many in one video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. So thank you guys again for watching. If you did make it this far, let me know below if you guys liked this sort of new format for this series. And again, make sure to follow me on Instagram and check out my shop. All the links below. Thank you guys again for watching. Hope to see you next time. Have a good one, and peace.
Wow.